I would just like to say I failed my first year of university. Yeah, so basically I have applied to university. I have submitted my UCAS. I waited. I received invite to interview. I had my interview last week, and that was all great. And all of that is in different videos that I've put on the channel. So if you're interested in seeing those, please. I did a vlog of my interview day, which was just really fun. It was just really fun to make a vlog. So if you're interested in that, please go check it out. But yeah, so now I'm just waiting. And I think this period is very challenging for a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people on Facebook and Instagram, and they're really struggling because on the one hand, you want to be a part of this community. You want to, I don't know if you're anything like me, but I'm the sort of person that loves to see what everyone else is up to and to feel part of something. And so wherever it's been, whatever I've been doing in life, I've always joined chat rooms and forums and things like that to just sort of see what's normal, what's not normal. But I think sometimes that can actually be detrimental in certain ways. I've been obsessively checking the Facebook group Secret Community of Midwives in the Making, and Instagram, and it's really lovely when you see these people getting interviews, and especially people second, third, fourth cycle, and they're getting interviews and then they're getting offers, and their dreams are coming true, and that is so really just wonderful to see. But then you also sit there and you sort of compare yourself to them, like, oh, why have they heard back? Why have I not heard back? Is there something wrong with me? Did I not do as well? And you sort of start to spiral. And actually, there can be any number of reasons why you've not heard back from university. It could be that different people were interviewing. So the people that interviewed on certain days, they've got back to all their people, but actually the other group of interviewers hasn't. Or it could be that, they've got a system in place and actually they're going to wait to hear, have X number of people interviewed before they get back to anybody. There could be any number of reasons why you've not heard back. Your file could have been misplaced. There could be anything. And so actually until May, which is when all these universities have the right to wait until early May to get back to you, you really shouldn't worry at all. And yes, there are lots of people getting rejections, and that is really hard as well. And obviously I could be in that camp as well. And that is the sort of not knowing that is very challenging. But I would say once you have submitted your application, if you can do this, and I'm such a hypocrite because I couldn't do this at all. Don't check the Facebook, don't put it in your notifications. It's not healthy. It's not good for you. I've been trying to keep busy, so making these videos and obviously things with my kids, and we've been doing lots of baking and just trying to keep busy. That is all very helpful. We had a coronavirus test this week, so I had to, my son had a cough and also really bad impetigo. And so I phoned back up about the impetigo, and they said because of the cough he needed to get tested. So we've taken him, he got tested, and it was amazing actually. In our local area, they've just set up a walk-in centre, just opened 2 weeks ago. And he was tested at 3:30 on Monday. And by, I think, 9 p.m. on Tuesday, we had the result. So, thankfully, Wednesday morning, everyone went back to school and work. So that was great. I'm sorry, I've waffled off on the... Oh, yeah. So just, it's been handy to have distractions, being a mother, there's always stuff going on, and that's helpful. But because I'm so excited about this, because I'm so passionate about this, because well, I mean, it's the unknown, isn't it? It's always hard to not know what's coming, and this year's been such a odd one, and so it's nice to have something to look forward to. So I've been a complete hypocrite in this. I have been checking the Facebook, checking the Instagram every single day, way too many times. But my advice to anyone else would be, don't do that. Just unsubscribe once you've applied. Wait to hear back, get your interviews. When I applied the first time, it was all done by post. It was very slow. The school sent off the UCAS, I think, and I don't think you even really knew when they sent it off, because it was to do, they had to sort the reference part. And then, I don't know, a couple months later, I got an invite to come to an interview. And then that interview wasn't for like another month. And then we actually physically went there and had the interview. And then you got an offer through the post. So there wasn't even really an option to, refresh UCAS every 5 minutes. Maybe there was, I don't know. I'm old. But the offer came through in the post later. And I will actually I'm going to dig out all of because I kept all of my, all the paperwork from my first degree. So all of my offers that came through, because I did my degree was education with mathematics. So in order to get onto the mathematics part of the course, I had to there was like a problem that they sent and you had to solve it. And it was something to do with clocks. It was really interesting. So anyway, I've got the paperwork somewhere. I'll throw screenshots up of it because it's really cool. But actually it was a really slow process, and there was no, because Oxford and Cambridge and medical courses, you have to apply by October 15th. So I was the only one of like my friendship group or people that I knew that had actually done that sort of earlier deadline. So I didn't really have that competitiveness. Like I didn't know anyone online who was applying to the course that I was applying to, and I didn't know anyone that was applying to Cambridge, and so there was like no pressure, and it was just sort of like, oh, it will turn up when it turns up, or we're here when we're here. And it was obviously really exciting getting letters through the post, but yeah, it was a completely different experience and so much slower, and I sort of missed that sort of slower pace, because I can literally be in a state of anxiety 24 hours a day, because I can check my emails every 5 minutes, I can check the Facebook group every 5 minutes, and it's just not a healthy place to put yourself. So if I could give any advice, and if I could take any advice myself, I would say once you've applied, tune out of that stuff for a bit if you can, even if you just limit yourself to like maybe once a week or twice a week or once a day or whatever, just because all the comparing is not helpful. There's been some people on Instagram and Facebook who have, they've had to basically put posts up being like, I'm really happy for you all, because I think everyone is genuinely excited for everyone else on these communities, but also like, this is not good for my mental health, I'm going to have to take a step back. Certain people who have interviewed, and like people who've interviewed on the same days, near the same times, and then other people have come on and been like, I was offered a place on the spot, and then people are sat there going, I wasn't. And then even though like an offer comes a couple of days later, they feel worse about themselves because they weren't offered a place on the spot. And nobody needs that. Nobody needs that comparing. Nobody needs that sort of feeling of inadequacy. Everyone is doing an amazing job, and at the end of the day, we're all going to be midwives, and that's the goal. And I think sometimes with these things you can get distracted by all the nonsense, and at the end of the day, once you're a qualified registered midwife, you're not going to be sat there going, oh, but when I applied to UCAS, like someone got offered a spot on, they got a place at university on the spot during their interview and I didn't. Like, no, none of that's going to matter. None of this is going to matter. Even next year, like once everyone has their places and they're going to university, none of this is going to matter. And so don't torture yourself by comparing. Comparing is just always a recipe for anxiety and, worry and depression and those sorts of things. So just enjoy it. And if it is affecting your mental health, or it's making you feel less good about the process and yourself and what you're capable of, then just tune it out, turn it off. Once you've got your offer, or once you know what's happening for the next year, you can then maybe re-engage and get excited for the next steps and the next part of where you're going to. But I think definitely my one main piece of advice is just don't get sucked into the comparing. So as part of this story time, I thought I would just share with you a little bit about my first degree. So I went to the University of Cambridge. I studied education with mathematics at Homerton. and I met some really amazing people on that course. We were all mostly education students, different people from different courses. Um, and then I also met my husband there. He was the friend of one of my roommates, and he just like they went to school together, and he had moved to Cambridge. I'm not entirely sure why he'd moved to Cambridge actually, but he'd moved there to for his gap year, and he came to visit her one day, and we met, and that was I was like 18 and a half, and we're still together now. So, um, but yeah, it was such a wonderful, amazing experience. But I would just like to say I failed my first year of university. Like, hands up. Um, I don't know about other people, but for me, I drowned that first year. Like, going out into the big bad world all by myself, cooking, cleaning, washing dishes, like just everything, and then organizing. I've never been very good at organizing my time, or I wasn't back then. I would say, mother of three now, you learn it, you work it out. But back then, oh, just like, yeah, to say that I had been mollycoddled might be an understatement. I just fell over. I didn't know how to be a self-sufficient human being. And then on top of that, you're trying to study. And yeah, I didn't manage my time well. I wasn't good at looking after myself. I wasn't good at feeding myself. I wasn't good at getting enough sleep or doing all the, basic things that, you should be doing to have good health and everything else. So yeah, it came time to have the exam, and I remember I was sat in one of the study labs, and I'm looking at these notes. Basically, I'd fallen asleep during a lot of lectures. I was really, really active in a lot of societies back then. I was doing, I think, my first term of university, I was in 3 musicals. And yeah, I got a bit overexcited. Had no idea how to look after myself. Had no idea how to rein it back in once things spiraled out of control. At Cambridge, the terms are only 8 weeks. So you have 8 weeks, then you have like a month off, and then 8 weeks. And then at Christmas, I think it's even longer. I don't know. You're really not there for that much time, and you only actually have lectures. The 2 main terms, the summer term, you are basically on your own. And now that's fine. I can do independent study till the cows come home now. But at 18, I fell to pieces, because also you don't do any sort of musicals or shows or like this. Like, it's exam term, so everyone just sort of, you press pause and you study and you take your exams. And without all the routine that I'd built over the first 2 main terms, I just fell to pieces, and my depression really kicked in hard. And I didn't study. I didn't do anything really. I slept a lot. I think I cried and I slept, and that was sort of all I did, because I just, especially at 18, I didn't understand my triggers for my depression. I didn't understand how I could prevent that. And now as a 33-year-old, I'm pretty good. I sort of know the warning signs. I know the sort of strategies I need to put in place to protect myself from those things. And when those things slip, there's always a very obvious, like, okay, like, things are not going well, I have to put those back into place. And but at 18, I had no idea about that stuff. So I think for the first like 6 weeks of that term, I just slept. And then finally was like, oh, it's like 2 weeks till exams, I should probably revise. And went down to this room, and I was like sat there, and of course, like, my revision was as bad as my actual. I used to write the essays the night before, like the entirety of the essay. I'd start at like 10 p.m. and then just work through the night and then hand it in the next morning. Like, just terrible work ethic, and just bad organization, and just everything else. But yeah, so I'm sat down there, it's like 2 a.m, and I'm looking over these notes. It was number theory. Number theory. You can't fake your way through number theory. I would like to say you cannot fake your way through. Like essay subjects, you can pretty much be like, yeah, I can waffle my way through this, that's fine. Maths, you cannot waffle your way through. And so, yeah, I'm sat there and I'm looking at these notes, and I've fallen asleep through so many of these lectures. Again, not looking after myself, not getting enough sleep, everything else, like just trying to pack way too much in. And I'm looking at these notes and I'm thinking, there is literally no way that I can learn all this for the exam. Like, there's not enough time. Even if I were to study from now until the day with nothing else, there's not enough time. And yeah, so I had that realization, and I gave it my best. But yeah, a letter came through in summer holidays. I'm like sat at home, and my parents are like, "There's a letter for you from Cambridge." It's like, probably not a good sign. And it was a letter saying, "You have failed the year." It's like, oh. Cool. That's yeah. Took myself out for a walk. I had to have a nice stern talking to myself, because my reaction, I don't do well with bad news. I mean, I don't know anyone that does, but you know, my go-tos are always like, well, it's someone else's fault. Well, obviously not. It was my fault. And then it's like, well, you know, I quit. So, well, you can't quit. So yeah, and luckily they were very good. They basically said that they would hold a meeting. They would discuss whether or not they were going to allow me to resit that exam that I'd failed. The rest of the exams I hadn't failed. I'd done fine on them. And you know, first year is a sort of pass-fail year, so you ideally would like to pass that, but it doesn't go towards the end result of your degree. So they basically, I had to go up there was a meeting held, I had to sit in front of, you know, all of my lecturers, and you know, they told me off, and fair enough, fair dues. You know, it was a place at Cambridge University that I had not been applying myself in the correct way. So, and luckily they did decide that they would allow me to resit it. And so my mum shipped me off up to Cambridge early. I ended up staying there for 2 weeks and just living in the library and basically teaching myself that number theory paper. And in the end, I got a first on it. So it wasn't that I couldn't do the thing. That's the annoying thing. Like, I wish. No, I'm not sure. I wish, but like, it was just one of those things where it's like, you are capable of this. You're just lazy. You know. We all have those times. We all have those moments. Or you've just not applied yourself enough. Like, I feel like so many people are capable of so much more than they believe that they're capable of, but you know, fear of failure, or just not applying yourself, or not knowing how to apply yourself, maybe sometimes. But yeah, so you know, I'm in my 30s. I want to go back to university. I feel relatively confident that I'm capable of going on to do this degree. I'm excited about it. I want to learn again. But yeah, we all have times where we fall flat on our face, and that's absolutely fine. You know, you pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, start all over again, as the song goes. And yeah, I finished the year. I ended up with a 2-1 in my degree, so it was fine in the end. I think my second year I got a 2-2, and then my last year was sort of a really apply myself, and I got a 2-1 in the end. And that was the year that I think I had a neuroscience part of my degree. It's funny, that's the only part that I can remember, but I enjoyed it the most. It was the most interesting. But yeah, so it was definitely an interesting experience. I'm not going to talk too much about like the mundane parts of it. Like, to me, my university experience is really highlighted by the fact that I failed my first year of university, but came out at the end of the day with a BA Hons, a 2-1. So, you know, it worked out fine in the end, but it was definitely challenging. And yeah, it was definitely something where you had to, you know, everyone has to make those choices about what their priorities are. And in that first year, I did not prioritize my education at all. The priority really was being a young person out on my own, experiencing the world with all the freedoms, and then realizing that actually freedoms are not great, and you really do need to do all those things your parents told you to do, like go to bed early and eat, tidy up after yourself. Okay, yeah, so that's my little story time. It's a bit off topic from all these other videos, but I just thought it might be something interesting. The next couple of videos, I wanted to do a little series about, I was going to research all the different universities that provide midwifery as a degree and sort of give a little synopsis of how they provide it, what the entry requirements are, things like that. So if that's something you're interested in seeing, please subscribe so that you can be notified when those videos go up. If you've liked this video, please give it a like, and please comment if this is, if you're a mature student going back to university and if you've done a previous degree, let me know how you got on. Was it a good experience? Was it a bad experience? Did you finish the degree? And yeah, how does it make you feel about going back this time? Like all that stuff I just find so interesting. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.